One of the more poignant questions to ask someone who believes in Noah's flood is why certain animals only exist in certain countries after the flood. Why choose that particular country or ecosystem when you've got the whole world to choose from? Well, today, Answers in Genesis Canada are going to answer just that. Hello all and welcome along to another episode of Tinfoil Tuesday and day 27 of One a Day for May, where I release a video every single day for the month of May. My name's Simon Dan. Thanks very much for joining me. Before we begin today though, quick thank you to the sponsors of this video, Raycon. Now, Father's Day is just around the corner and Raycon's everyday earbuds are the perfect gift for your dad. Whether he's lifting big at the gym, busy with those endless work calls, or jamming out to his favourite tunes that make your mum mad. Give your dad the gift of premium audio that goes where he goes. Now, Raycon's everyday earbuds come in a spectrum of vibrant colours to match your dad's vibe. For me, it's black all the way. Timeless. Now when you're a dad, there's a lot of outside noise, trust me. But these earbuds come with active noise cancellation, which is often difficult to find at such an accessible, dad-friendly price point. Now I have other earbuds of course, but these are my go-to earbuds for everyday use. They come with me from my morning coffees to walking the dog and everything in between. And talking of the active noise cancellation, the buzz of a busy coffee shop is quickly eliminated with your Raycon so you can enjoy whatever you are listening to. Now, I've also been loving these cool protective case covers. First of all, check out the design. It complements the earbuds colours perfectly. And not only do they look great, they support wireless charging too. So I don't have to take the protective cover off when I'm fast charging them. Go to buyraycon.com/SimonDan for 50% off site-wide. Once again, this video brought to you by Raycon. Thank you very much to them. Right, on with today's video, which as I said in the intro, comes from Answers in Genesis Canada, who are answering the question of migration after the flood. This will be interesting. Let's have a look.
When Bible critics attempt to discredit the trustworthiness of the Bible, they often mock the historical account of Noah's Ark and the Great Deluge, as well as the accompanying situations that must have inevitably occurred because of it, as being preposterous. And one of those situations is the fact that as animals left the ark after the flood was over, they would have needed to travel all over the world, which would be practically impossible today.
Indeed, and to complement matters further, why did animals like lemurs settle only in Madagascar? Seems a very specific place to go.
Are we biblical creationists really saying that kangaroos on the mountains of Ararat somehow hopped all the way to Canberra in Australia? Are we somehow inferring that the koalas also accompanied them, or that other endemic species such as the ring-tailed lemurs leapt their way to Madagascar? Did they climb over hill and dale, swim the seven seas, and navigate nature to places only they could be nurtured? The skeptic, like my Newfie neighbors, would claim they couldn't get there from here.
Well, yes, but I think what makes it worse is the extremely small timescales you've got to play with. What was the flood? 4,000 years ago, according to you? Very challenging to explain.
We know God's word is true, and it's his testament to mankind. And the book of Genesis reveals the instructions God gave Noah regarding exiting the ark after the floodwaters subsided and dried off from the face of the ground after the ark had landed. God asked Noah to get his family and every living creature out of the ark, birds and animals and every creeping thing that creeps on the earth, that they may swarm on the earth and be fruitful and multiply on the earth. Genesis 8:17. And every beast, every creeping thing, and every bird, everything that moves on the earth, went out by families from the ark. Genesis 8, verse 19.
Okay, great, but that's immediately after leaving the ark. There's a long way to go after that.
Now, after that, there aren't many details on how these animals migrated.
Of course there aren't. So are we going to guess?
However, the biblical and other historical evidence we have, along with much scientific research that's been done by both secular scientists and biblical creationists, point to two main mechanisms for animal dispersion after the ark landed. One would be post-flood environmental conditions, and two would be human behavior. First of all, while it's true that major bodies of water separate continents from one another today, even secular scientists agree that at one time, the oceans were much lower in the past, during the height of the Ice Age.
The Ice Age? The most recent Ice Age ended around 11,500 years ago, buddy. That's around 7,000 years too early for you. In fact, 4,000 years ago, the sea level was much as it is now. So that one's done for you, isn't it?
Of course, some evolutionists believe in many ice ages, while creationists typically believe in one that was triggered after the flood.
Ah, okay, you made up an ice age. Great. There is, of course, no evidence that supports an ice age 4,000 years ago.
Because of the extensiveness of the glacial ice sheets on the Earth at that time, there must have been a massive amount of water removed from Earth's oceans through precipitation to provide for it, which would have lowered sea levels dramatically. A simple Google image search with a mix of keywords like extent of the ice age, world map, and ocean levels will reveal several depictions of the continents of the world as it is now, with an additional extended outline beyond where those continents are today that depict how far they believe the continents would extend above water due to the lowered sea level at the time of the ice age.
The last time there was a land bridge between Australia and Asia, which by the way was only with Papua New Guinea, was 18,000 years ago. So again, time is not on your side, matey.
So the animals that populated the Earth far away from the mountainous region of Ararat where Noah's Ark landed some 4,500 years ago would have eventually been able to travel across land bridges for the most part. But how exactly they moved through continents or why certain wild animals live in specific regions of the Earth remains a puzzling mystery.
So you can't explain it. Well, evolution does explain it, but I guess you're not prepared to listen to that? Let's take our lemurs for an example. Ancestral lemurs are believed to have evolved in Africa around 62 to 65 million years ago. They then crossed the Mozambique Channel, a deep channel separating Africa and Madagascar, likely on floating vegetation rafts. Once they were settled on the island, they became reproductively isolated and free from the threats of other primates. In fact, the only reason they still survive there today is because of Madagascar's isolation. And how can we support this theory? Well, fossil records show that lemurs' ancestors originated on Africa, but there's no pre-Cretaceous fossils found on Madagascar. Plus, the genetic studies of modern lemurs support the idea they evolved from a single ancestor that settled on Madagascar. This ancestor diversified into various species, reflecting the unique evolutionary path taken by those lemurs.
Even considering the truth that the continents were connected at some time in the past, skeptics often mock the idea of creatures traveling such vast distances. However, we're talking hundreds of years of time and many generations of creatures, representing millions of offspring doing the trek incrementally, not all at once during a brief sprint. And surprisingly to many, even small, clumsier, like compared to a gazelle, for example, animals are quite capable of spreading on their own and covering incredibly long distances.
Totally agree, but not in the timescales you mentioned. On top of that, can you tell me why kangaroo fossils have only ever been found in Australia or Papua New Guinea? If indeed they travelled thousands of years to Australia, across several generations, there should be a line of fossils going back in time from Australia all the way to the Ark's location in Turkey. And there is not.
For example, when cane toads, not the spryest of God's creatures, were introduced by humans into Australia to tackle pests, it only took 10 years for their population to spread a distance of 2,000 kilometers. These toads have populated great regions of the continent, from an initial population of 102 to an estimated 200 million today.
Okay, great, but the cane toad can reproduce several times a year and end up laying 30,000 eggs each time. And you get fully formed cane toads within around 20 weeks. A kangaroo usually breeds once per year and only one offspring at a time. There is a clear difference here.
Unfortunately, they've become pests themselves, as the toads are poisonous to most Australian carnivorous wildlife that try to eat them. Alarmingly, to many Aussies, their current rate of spread is from 5 to 50 kilometers per year. But a toad's got to do what a toad's got to do. And as a famous green Muppet once said, "For an amphibian." What needs to be considered is that after the flood, there would have been no problem for successive population waves of animals moving into empty ecological niches in all directions.
Totally disagree. And do you know why I disagree? The humble penguin. Not a single penguin fossil has been found in the Northern Hemisphere. Now I have to argue, if your migration story is true and the spread took hundreds and thousands of years, then why is there no evidence of penguins ever existing in the north? Chew on that, my good fellow.
And modern recolonization studies can also attest to how rapidly animals can migrate to even geographically isolated locations or places recently devastated by catastrophes, like Surtsey Island off the coast of Iceland, or the island of Krakatoa in the tropical Pacific. Look at how Britannica.com describes the rapidity of animal recolonization at both locations in just a short period. 6 months after the eruption of a volcano on the island of Surtsey, off the coast of Iceland in 1963, the island had been colonized by a few bacteria, molds, insects, and birds. Within about a year of the eruption of a volcano on the island of Krakatoa in the tropical Pacific of 1883, a few grass species, insects, and vertebrates had taken hold.
Okay, great, but that's got absolutely nothing to do with your argument. Nothing. I see what you're doing here. It's verbal sleight of hand magic.
It should be noted that by any geological standard, Surtsey is a brand new land feature on our planet. National Geographic described it this way. On November 14, 1963, an Icelandic fisherman noticed a plume of smoke rising from the open water. Within a day, Surtsey, a new volcanic island, had formed off the southern coast of Iceland. By 1965, plant life had colonized the relatively flat southern portion of the island, which is also visited by migratory birds and seals. 52 plant species have been recorded, and the number rises each year. The fact is that many creatures have amazing abilities that allow them to travel around the world.
Again, this is irrelevant. A migratory bird does not settle in one place like a kangaroo or a lemur does. You can provide several examples if you want of life reclaiming island, but that is a far cry from a kangaroo travelling to only one continent in less than 4,000 years and leaving no evidence of its journey behind whatsoever. I'm done with this one today. Honestly, the argument is so awful. Misdirection, smoke and mirrors, just awful. Well, there we go. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of Answers in Genesis answer on the migration problem there. As I say, we're all done and dusted for another one. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please do consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the thumbs up button as well. It'd be very much appreciated. Just enough time to once again thank Raycon for sponsoring today's video. Remember, go to buyraycon.com/SimonDan for 15% off site-wide. I've been Simon Dan. Have yourselves a great day, and I'll see you all tomorrow for some more flat earth fun. See you then.